We live in a time where comfort has become a kind of moral currency, a world where ease is frequently mistaken for kindness and struggle is viewed as cruelty. We call this environment compassionate, but it is often just fear wearing a soft voice, a fear of confrontation, excellence, and the risk of standing out in a culture that quietly worships sameness. Mediocrity has slowly become a virtue, evolving from simple empathy into a sense of entitlement where everyone deserves applause, effort becomes optional, and truth itself is treated as offensive. Friedrich Nietzsche warned of this drift, a shift from reverence for the strong spirit to the protection of the fragile one. This is not a matter of physical strength, but of the soul, the ability to endure truth without needing to distort it. In this landscape, it is essential to distinguish between softness and weakness. Softness is sensitivity and the ability to feel, whereas weakness is the inability to face what that feeling reveals. Society, in its pursuit of safety, has begun to mistake avoidance for virtue, protecting people not from genuine harm, but from awareness. If you have ever felt a quiet frustration when honesty is labeled as aggression, or when standing in your own clarity feels like a betrayal, you are experiencing the unease of a strong mind, living in a culture that fears its own reflection. We reward weak minds because they do not disrupt comfort. They nod, agree, scroll, and consume without ever asking why. This overcorrection began as an emotional defense against a history of cruelty and war. In our attempt to remove the force that crushes, we mistakenly tried to remove all forms of intensity. We taught that to be kind is to be quiet, and that to love is to never offend. However, love without honesty becomes mere compliance, and compliance is how the soul decays. Real goodness is not dependent on ease. Goodness that requires comfort is simply cowardice in disguise. It demands a confrontation with the self, with truth, and with fear. Nietzsche described this psychology as slave morality, born from a long-standing sense of powerlessness. When people feel powerless for too long, they redefine power itself as evil, calling weakness a virtue and strength a form of oppression. The cost of this flip is enormous. When every challenge is seen as violence, growth becomes impossible. We see this in modern debates that seek outrage rather than understanding, and in social media posts designed to curate innocence rather than reveal truth. The world now rewards the performance of goodness rather than its actual practice. Yet beneath this curated comfort, the human spirit still craves the difficult, because that is where aliveness resides. Society may tell you that discomfort means something is wrong, but often discomfort means something is finally real. We have become allergic to the real because it cannot be managed or branded. It demands that we outgrow our own explanations. A weak mind cannot stand in uncertainty and must hide behind a script of noise and distraction. Strength, conversely, is the willingness to stay awake inside pain until meaning finally appears. If our society truly rewarded the quiet strength of endurance and the courage to see, our entire economy of attention would collapse. Attention thrives on reaction and outrage, not reflection and understanding. This is why the strong are often lonely. They see through the game too clearly to play it sincerely. They carry truths that cannot be posted without being misunderstood, yet they refuse to betray their own awareness. Society rewards simplicity over sincerity and agreement over authenticity. But every time you hide your truth to stay liked, weakness wins a small victory. The point of life was never safety, it was becoming. Becoming requires the risk of dying to old identities and burning the scripts we were given. Society fears the self that thinks for itself because it cannot be predicted, branded, or controlled. Consequently, comfort has become the new form of control. The real question we must face is not how society started rewarding weak minds, but why we started fearing strong ones.
We feared them the moment we forgot that strength is not power over others, but the capacity to remain open while standing in truth. A strong mind does not seek to dominate, it seeks to see. What it sees first is often the loneliness of realizing that much of modern kindness is merely performance. While the weak mind clings to certainty because uncertainty feels like annihilation, the strong mind knows that uncertainty is where strength